You texted me that you bleached your hair, and you understand if I never wanna see you again. But I can't imagine that it looks bad, and if it does, then I'll dye mine too. And we can walk around this stupid town together like it's the only thing that there's left to do.
Welcome to the Adroit Artist. My name is Andre Cormier. I'm the Executive Director of Mount Blue TV. And today for this episode, we are joined by Louisa Stancioff. Louisa, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
In the description of you and your music, it mentioned that your music was influenced by your Bulgarian heritage and that sound. It informs your sound. Is that accurate? And how do you see that happening with your music?
Yeah, it also is just a way to make me sound more interesting. But definitely, I grew up singing Bulgarian music with my family, and it was just recently that I realized that probably did have a huge influence on my songwriting, and it's just a common thing for people to comment on with my songs that there's a lot of dissonance in them and like unexpected melodies and just people can't really guess which chord is coming next or like whatever. And for me, I don't really think too hard about that kind of thing. It just kind of comes. And I think it does have a lot to do with not just being raised on American folk music or like traditional Western folk music. It's this otherworldly sort of sound. To me, I love those harmonies and those melodies and it, I've never, when I show other people Bulgarian music for the first time and they've never heard it, they're like, whoa, this is crazy sounding. What? And I'm like, really? It sounds like really normal to me and I love it. And not normal, it sounds natural to me, I guess. So that was a recent addition to my bio. I do find that when I'm just moving a lot, working a lot, and on the go, I don't really end up writing very many songs. It's always when I get back from something, um, or like just take a break and sit down, and especially if I start writing, maybe I'll like spend a couple days where I just actively am writing in my journal again and like kind of observing what has been happening in my life and taking into account um, all the changes or like just observing my feelings really. Yeah, definitely that's when stuff happens, when sounds are created, new lyrics come to mind, and I feel inspired to pick up my guitar. And
So is that how the process, it sounds like, so there's a period of reflection, you talk about doing some journaling, and then is it normally you're finding lyrics first and then you start incorporating, how am I going to bring a sound to this?
usually it's actually I start just playing guitar, or I hear a melody in my head and I sing it to myself, and then I'll usually be like, whoa, that was really nice. Like, oh, I feel something from that. And then I'll just kind of start mumbling words until like stuff comes out. I'll like record it and just be like, "La, la, da, 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 da," and then I'll like listen back and be like, oh, it sounds like I said that there. Maybe this is about this thing that I haven't like thought about in a while. Like I could write a song about that actually, now that I think about it. And then it turns into that maybe, or maybe something else.
Well, two things there, I think. One, as a mumbler, I'm glad to see we're promoting mumbling being a positive thing you can do. And then two, when you're in that space, what does that feel like for you as an artist when you're creating? Is it like, okay, I'm going to sit down and from 9 to noon, I'm going to work on songs? Or is it just more of an organic process for you?
I would love to be more like that. but I never am. If I do that, I end up like just cleaning instead or something. Like I'm like 9 to noon is what. Oh wait, I have to do this. I'll sit down soon. It doesn't really work like that for me, unfortunately. It is just kind of a, I suddenly have nothing going on. Oh, there's a guitar on my wall. Let's see. Let's see. And then maybe something will happen. But yeah, I haven't been writing very many songs lately. I've been more focusing on the business side of things as of late. So I like just haven't really made time for it because I have a ton of songs that some of them are recorded and not released, and just a lot of I have just a lot of material right now. And so I'm not really like I don't feel the need to write songs, and there's nothing. My life is like pretty nice right now, so like I don't have anything to write about.
Oh, you talked about that in one of your songs, Inhibition. I think the song starts sort of talking about how, you know, your life is good. How are you gonna? Things are okay.
That song came from straight up writer's block and me being like, I'm forcing this to happen. I need to write a song. But that was like I wrote that like 4 years ago, and it was before I had such a plethora of material to perform, and I was feeling like, yeah, I just wasn't. I was like, why do I call myself a songwriter and I don't have like that much going on? And that was kind of a plunge into new territory, like just writing, just kind of forcing myself into writing a song. And that one came out, and I hated it at first, and then I played it as a joke, kind of like to my cousin who I was in a band at the time, and he was like, Louisa, that song is my favorite song you've ever written. Okay. And then everyone I played it to, they were like, I love that song. And I was like, that's insane.
Song I'd like to write, 'cause everything in my life seems to be alright. But today my horoscope told me I'd be hit by a lightning bolt and I'd explode with ideas so beautiful. And I can't seem to finish anything that I began. Another disaster, lost in a bottle again. So tell me I'm useful, tell me I'm doing right. I won't be satisfied until you tell me I'm doing right. I might be falling 'cause I don't know where I'm going, holding back from everything, afraid of all my passions. Inhibition.
A lot of times I'd start songs and think they were really dumb and not finish them. But since I'd actually finished a song that I thought was dumb and people liked it, I started finishing songs that I thought were dumb. and that's usually, I always don't like them when I'm writing them. I'm like, ugh, this is so lame. And then those are always the ones that people are like, I love that song. So I just usually always finish songs.
When you're in your creative process, you know, often your biggest critic to the point where you're like, you're just throwing things away. Especially as a musician with music, how do you take that feedback and go back and work with it?
I have a lot of people that I send voice memos to, and well, I'll send a song and be like, is this even worth working on? Like something like that. Or I'll say like, give me your feedback. I'm like so into collaborating with people. I don't trust myself at all to know what I like and know what is a good song and what's not. It's so hard when you're in your head and it's coming from like your heart, and you're like, this feels so real to me, but it might just be so cheesy. That happened to, I saw that you wanted to ask about Lit Up. That was truly, that song I thought was, the weird part about that song is it came so easily. I wrote it in like 20 minutes, and I was raking the lawn in the spring, trying to rake all the leaves up. And I just like all these lines kept coming to me, and I would just like record them. And I recorded like 20 voice memos back to back, and realized I was like, I just like wrote a song. And then I went inside and played it. Like I wrote down the words that I had recorded, and then I just played it because I had it all, like I could hear it. And I was like, this must be really bad. That was way too easy. Like I was like, this must already be like a melody of another song or something, or like really similar to something. And so I sent it to 3 different friends to be like, is this worth working on? Should I just scrap this? Is this dumb? And all 3 of them were like, I think that's really special. Like, that's a really cool song.
Do you want me? Do you want yourself? Do you want to pretend that you're someone else? You hardly know me now, but I can see how you might think you do. But I wish you weren't so scared to collect your happiness. I see it over there. There's no time to react or reason to look back. So why are you so scared? I see it over there, but I can't be your way out. No, I can't be your way out.
But I totally would have been down if they had been like, yeah, that is kind of cheesy. I would have been like, yeah, that's what I thought. Cool, done. So I'm pretty easily influenced by what my friends will say, especially ones that I trust musically. Not just like, these aren't just like random friends that like listen to music casually. These are like musicians friends that like write songs that I've collaborated with in the past that I trust a lot to give me like actual honest feedback.
Well, and I think that's an important note there too, because like there's tons of criticism that's not constructive necessarily yet, and it really has to be, I think, when you do ask for feedback, it's got to be from people you trust. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, you're just going to doubt what they're giving you as well. So finding that that group, talk to me a little bit about that too, in terms of, you know, you doing the songwriting process, and it sounds like finding the beginnings of these songs on your own. But you mentioned you have 2 fellas that are brothers that you work with as a band. What's that part look like in terms of how do you guys come together and collaborate?
Yeah, we usually I'll just bring a song and be like, do you guys like this song? We could play it. And
It sounds complicated then.
yeah, then they play it, and it's just usually just great, really easy. They're really good musicians, and they've played with a lot of different people and can just kind of pick up stuff super fast. Like I'll say the chord progression maybe once, or I won't even say it, and like Dan will know it. And Dave is the drummer, and he'll come up with something. And yeah, and both of them I'll definitely like be like, don't play there actually, or like add this here, maybe do like a high thing on guitar there, like make it more like floaty, lofty, or like make it more like I'll just like say words like that no one else would ever understand, and they're like, okay, yeah. And sometimes they will be more opinionated and be like, no, it should be faster, like let's do it faster. And maybe I'll let them say. Most of the songs that I play with them were written a while ago, and I've played them with people at times, or I was in the process of recording them at the time with just a producer, so they don't actually play on my unreleased album. They're definitely down to play how I have it arranged already. But there are like 3 or 4 songs now that we do that I have written just recently that they are a part of how, like, the creation of it, because they're the first people I've played it with. And like there's 2 songs in particular that I played kind of completely different by myself, and then I started playing with them, and it's like a very different vibe. And it's like, these are the Kelly brothers, like making my song a song, and we're probably going to record it together, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing that I found different, you know, doing creative writing. You know, once you've published something as a short story or something, you don't get to go back and like rewrite the story a little bit, add something here. Whereas with music, there's really opportunities as, you add different band members, you can add different instrumentation, all that different arrangement that you talk about. So songs can drastically change over the course of time. Some of my favorite musicians, stuff that they did 20 years ago that they're playing live now, it's the same song, but it's got all these different components. Do you find that, how do you find that experience as being a performer? Because there's that side we've talked about a little bit with the creation of these songs, but in terms of performance on stage and what is that like for you as an artist engaging with an audience?
Yeah, so the thing about me and Dan and Dave, we were super, super, super excited to be playing with each other in the wintertime. And I was like, wait, yeah, you guys are like down to play shows? Like, I'm going to be around. I like decided to, I was like kind of planning to move back to Asheville, North Carolina. And then just playing with them, I was like, this is so fun. Like, we could play so many gigs together. Like, because there's just so many spots to play in the Mid-Coast. And a bunch of people were reaching out to me already at the time. So I was like, are you guys down? And they're like, yeah, book shows. And so I booked like, I don't know, like 50 shows or something. I was a substitute teacher this winter. I worked in a restaurant and I was a substitute teacher. So when I was at the schools, you're just like, cool, go on your iPads, kids, and do your assignment. I'm like, shh, email, like, what am I gonna book with? Whatever, just left and right. People reaching out. I was just like really on top of getting back to anyone who reached out, and like being like, cool, we'll play that gig. Yeah, we'll play that gig. You guys down? Text Dan and Dave. They always respond immediately. Yep. And or like, I don't know if I can do that. I'll have to get off work. But anyway, we play a lot of gigs, and most of them, I definitely like regret like booking some of these gigs. A lot of them are like really crappy bar gigs that were just like totally background music, and we're just like hoping that someone will pay attention to us, because it's just kind of the worst when absolutely no one's paying attention. But when you just need one or two people, and then it's like we're playing a show and it feels good. So like sometimes we do have to change how we play songs just to capture people's attention. A lot of my songs are kind of slow and sad, but we'll just like add a peppy beat and like make them a little faster. And so yeah, some songs have changed in that way, and I definitely prefer to play them the original way, but sometimes you just gotta switch it up and be like, I'm gonna just make it a little cheesy, ham it up.
The old know your audience sort of thing, right?
Definitely happens. And then it will happen where we do play like an intimate show. Like we opened for this band called Darlingside in Massachusetts last week. And that was a really special show. It's like sold out. Everyone's out there like totally silent listening to us open up for this band that I've like listened to since I was younger, like in high school. And so it was super cool. But I was kind of like, shoot, I haven't played to an audience that's actually listening to me in a while. So it was like a little bit like, okay, we got to like play these songs how we like the night before we played a 3-hour gig from 9 to midnight in some bar in Kennebunkport. And like there was just like drunken people like being like free bird. Oh, that's really funny. Lame. And it was just this silly show it did end up being really fun because a lot of people were like really into it. And it was a really well-paying gig. And so it was a great time, and we had a nice spot to stay that night. But then the next day we just kind of got in the car and drove for like 4 hours and just like absentmindedly like, yeah, just another gig. And then we get there and it's like this epic arrangement of sound equipment, and Darlingside, they're so like cool and really nice and funny. And we were like, oh my God, right, we're playing like a real gig. We got to like snap out of this like bar gig mode. It's a completely different thing. It's like a totally different monster. Like you just have to switch your brain cells to get back to what that's like. It's just it's like a different kind of job. It's hard to explain.
Well, I think you explained it pretty well there, and I think I would imagine to some degree that's probably healthy too in terms of not burning out, to like have these different environments that you can sort of go and play around in. And maybe not feel that pressure of every night having it be the same thing.
Yeah.
You want to have that big audience that's like listening to what you're doing. They're there to see you, but maybe sometimes something fun comes out of doing those other ones as well.
There's good stuff in all of it. You never know what you're gonna get. So.
You talked about another song, the Neck Yacht Club.
Oh yeah, that's one of the new ones, and I love. That's my favorite one to play with Dan and Dave right now. It's that one came from I was sitting on a lake in New Hampshire last fall, and there was this plywood sign like out on this island. We had to canoe out to see what it said because it was like written in red paint. We were like, what does that say? And we got close enough and it said Neck Yacht Club. And it's just like sitting in the sand. Obviously had been put there like long ago, and it was a joke at this lake, like as like this is our yacht club that we meet up at. And yacht was spelled wrong. It was YAUGHT. So it was funny, and I kind of imagined like this lake was really similar to like any lake in Maine, and I grew up, going to my friends' camps all the time and like hanging out on lakes and rivers, and you get up to a lot of just like sneaking around, meeting up at random times. And I pictured the kids on this lake, like texting each other, being like, we're going to meet up at the Redneck Yacht Club. And I kind of took the Redneck Yacht Club to be like any sort of spot that you come up with as like your spot to like get up to all the no good that you do when you're a teenager. That's like all the stuff that you remember. And I was picturing like particularly like one like sweet friendship or like sweet relationship that you have when you're like in high school, and you meet up at the Redneck Yacht Club. And for me, it was the Trestle in Farmington, where you're like, we're gonna go to the Trestle after school and like whatever, smoke pot and jump off the trestle, and it's like way too shallow and you shouldn't jump off it. It's really dangerous, but like whatever, we don't care because like we're moody and hormonal. So that's where that song came from. And we didn't actually call the Trestle the Redneck Yacht Club, and it's not a yacht club at all, but it like totally made sense in my head to be called that. And yeah, it's all kind of a made up story, but it's all real at the same time. Like found an old canoe behind her house and we wanted to fix it up, but we never like got around to it, kind of deal. Like we like had all these dreams and whatever, and like you lose touch with those people and you never really, none of it really matters, but it's like everything at the same time.
1, 2, 3, 4. You texted me that you bleached your hair and you understand if I never wanna see you again. But I can't imagine that it looks bad, and if it does, then I'll dye mine too. And we can walk around this stupid town together like it's the only thing that there's left to do. Do you wanna meet at the Redneck Yacht Club? It's the only place left for us. We can paddle out, take off all of our clothes and put on a show for the town. And I can't imagine what it feels like to not have you around this place. I never wanna think about a time when I never get to see your face. We carved our names into the trestle granite like it was our grave, and I would die to see you the way we were that night. What happened to that red canoe that we found in the woods fix it up, to paddle out to the Neck Yacht Club. But you and I never really put in the time. We carved our names into the trestle granite like it was our grave, and I would die to see you the way we were that night. The red escape that we pulled, and now it doesn't even matter, but I would die to see you the way we were that night.
Any art, I think comes from a personal place, but it's also the reason that it will work is because it also is this thing that can touch more people and reach out and connect with more people in a more universal way.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's hard because it's different everywhere. I find like performing for people in Maine, they don't really often understand what I'm trying to do. It's just like, cool, why are all these songs so sad? Like, why don't you play some covers? And I'm like, I can play 3 hours of covers, honestly. But I'd rather just play my original songs for you if you're willing to listen. But if I play, like some like hipster house show in Western Mass, they'd be pissed if I played a cover. They'd be like, "Oh my God, no, play us your sad songs. That's why we're here."
Right.
So it's just, you never know. And then there's always like one or two songs that do work for everybody in the audience. I have this one song in particular that's always the one that people comment on. So I'm like, cool, that's just like the one that everyone likes. The other ones, maybe people will like, maybe they'll think are weird, and you just kind of have to forget about it at some point. Like, be like, this is what works for me right now. And any artist that I look up to in like right now, or older artists, like they were just unapologetically themselves, and not everyone liked them, but they figured out how to make it work. The audience in the end, like your audience will choose you, and like to some extent you're choosing your audience too by being yourself and like making songs work.
You just talked about some of your influences in terms of music. When did you first start performing music? It sounded like, from what you were describing with the question earlier about Bulgarian heritage, that this was an early on thing for you.
That was more just like family gathering, singing Bulgarian music. But performing, when I was little, I went to Old South Church in Farmington and sang in the choir. Carol Shumway was my, director in school, um, and briefly, her husband was my voice teacher, and so I would like perform, yeah, things like that. Mrs. Parker was my voice teacher for a long time, and I would perform for voice lesson performances. And then also I took piano lessons and did those recitals. But professionally, I guess probably the first time I ever got like paid to play music was in college. Like I started playing some gigs with my band that I formed with them, and we went on a little tour together. And then me and my cousin Matt, we formed a band called Diado, and we toured around a lot starting right after college. And we just like toured our faces off all around the US. We toured in Alaska for a month and toured back to back, just like Oregon down to California and Texas, back to North Carolina where we were both living, in Asheville. So yeah, that was kind of when it all really started. I like learned how to play guitar and stuff.
Let me know if I should go or if I should stay. But would it be a burden stay. I wish I could know. Let me know if I should leave you hanging all alone. Watch your eyes up from the way I let you down. But let me know if you wanna hold your burden on your own. I know you've come so very far, and you're fine, even better off than before. I wish I could stay, I wish I could know. I wish I could stay, I wish I could know.
I was always more just like a singer, and I kind of played instruments, but now like guitar is much more like present because of that time in my life, just playing a ton.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, actually. You were talking about piano lessons and those things earlier. You seem pretty comfortable now, and you were talking about in your songwriting process, grabbing the guitar and having that be part of it. So that instrument, it's that growth process for you. And also for an artist, how much do you think that travel really affected you as a person too, to just see those different places? And I mean, it's a huge landscape that you can travel in the United States without a passport. And it's just as different and diverse with the types of cultures you go through, right?
Yeah, I love traveling in the US. It's such an adventure, like the landscape changing and the people changing. There's such different ways of life in every state. Yeah, I think it definitely forms my songwriting because I have a lot of songs just about traveling and whatever, the people I meet along the way and living in random places for short amounts of time and the experiences that come from that. Definitely a huge part of who I am. And I think I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin since I've traveled so much. Like, it's crazy to think, like, I feel like I was a different person like 5 years ago. Like, I feel like I was the same person in college as I am. Like, I have the same personality, but I also am like, oh my God, I was such a baby. Like, I had never done anything. It's so crazy. Like, I can't believe everything that's happened to me. Like, I feel like everything that's happened to me that's interesting has happened in the last 5 years. And like before that, I was just like chilling. So yeah, that's definitely a real thing. Like,
Yeah, and what was the sort of music that you started listening to? Has it always been an interest in sort of that folk genre, or have you had other musical influences as well?
definitely a lot of different kinds of musical influences. Trying to get more away from just straight up folk genre. Like, I definitely am trying to not just write folk songs, and that comes from maybe having too much folk influence in high school, only like playing my fiddle and singing like 3-part harmony with my friends. But yeah, definitely, like the regular ones, like Big Thief is a big influence, and they're like really folky at times and then super rock and roll. Um, and like I love like Regina Spektor. Like that's someone who I listened to a ton when I was little, like constantly.
Yeah.
Um, and I realized I started listening to Avril Lavigne again recently, like that first album. And I was like, whoa, I think a lot of my songs are influenced by her. Cause she was like my favorite artist in third grade to like seventh grade, probably. Um, I noticed like similarities in the melodies and the chord changes, and I was like, that is so funny. I would never have thought about that. That album is so good.
You never know what gets cooked into your embedded into your DNA as you're going as a person, right? Like,
A lot of like just like indie music, like women singer, like female vocals. That's kind of the world that I explore mostly these days.
when you're searching out new music, what are you looking for, and how do you go about that?
Usually the way I find music is on Spotify, and it's like just I'll put like an artist that I really like on like the radio one part, and then every time it comes to like something I've never heard, I heart the song, and I just have like a really long list of liked songs that I'll just listen to um a lot, and then I'll go, oh wait, who is that artist, like um cool, I'll go to that artist and like listen to their albums and like really get a feel for them, and then I'll like look them up on YouTube and be like, are they actually this good of a singer? Like, yeah, well, like I like really appreciate their musicality and like get really into it. So that's how I like become a fan of an artist usually.
And you talked about a little bit. I think there's like two sides of what you're doing right now. You're making the music, but then you were just talking about focus on the business aspect of it, right? So how do you think about getting your music out to people then? What is your approach right now? You've talked about having an album that's unreleased, and so where are you at with those things, and how are you pursuing that forward?
I I like sent out my album to a bunch of labels, and now I'm talking to one that is probably going to sign me, which is pretty cool, and they'll like release the whole album. I just decided I didn't want to do it on my own again because me and my cousin Matt did that in the past, and it doesn't go anywhere usually. It's just like it's really hard. There's so much out there, and you need a huge team or a lot of luck or both to make anything happen anymore. So the way to do it now is to get signed by a label so that they like, I mean, not the only way, but a way that I think will work for me the best,
Yeah.
is to make a deal, sell your soul a little bit, have them help you release it. These people are really nice, so I feel really, really lucky right now that they responded to an email, which is just very uncommon. and,
Right.
and then the process will just start it'll be very slow. It takes a lot of patience. I don't want to just release it because I know it will just be like, cool, my family listened to it and my friends and my Instagram, maybe like a third of my Instagram followers, and then like nothing else. Cool. There's just like you have to get on like playlists. You have to like have an actual vinyl to sell because that's like where you can make money now with it. But getting on like those like silly coffee shop playlists, that's how you can like make some money and like get some plays and then like be able to book shows, which is like the whole point, you know. I want to be able to play all over the place. I want to be able to like open for artists that I look up to and go on tour and yeah, not just be playing like silly bar gigs in Maine. I love at the same time, but good to switch it up.
Yeah. Well, and think you brought up an important point there that I think is important for people who are younger artists or people getting started with it, that like it's a really key thing to have patience. You have to keep working.
Yeah, I definitely have worked harder this year than I've ever worked, and it's hard for a lot of people to even understand. They like are like, "Oh, you mean you've been writing songs?" And I'm like, "No." I mean, not just that. But yeah, it's definitely patience. You send an email, no one's going to respond. Maybe someone's going to respond. Um, just finding the contacts. I think a lot of the work that I've put in, like I think of it as just being this past year, but it actually was the past 5 years. And like going on tour, I have like I just like know a lot of people now, like all over the country. And people are so nice. When you want to help them, they want to help you. And like, you're always going to like, especially in the music community, have each other's backs. And it has taken work though to get there. Like to have that trust. And since I know a lot of people now, like people are like, oh yeah, I know that person, like host her for a house show. That's great. And that's just happened to me so much on the road that like people that don't know me at all, like host me at their house and let me play songs for their friends and get me some gas money along the way. And then you give it back to hold that, to like grow that trust and grow the community. And that's a lot of the work with, especially the way I'm going about it. Like I'm not like a super like showy person that like has a bunch of followers on TikTok or whatever. That's also a lot of work, I'm sure. I don't really know how all that works. There's just so many ways to go about it, and all of them take patience and all of them take time, unless you like randomly go viral for some reason, like Maggie Rogers. That would like that, but that was a hard work for her. She had to, you know, deal with sudden fame, and I don't think it was easy for her. So
Right.
any situation with this, with like trying to make music a career, is just absolutely insane that you're trying to do it, and it must mean that you love it a lot. And no matter what, it's going to be super hard and super fun, and there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way.
Listening to your music, like the sound that you have, it's like it's sort of feels quiet sometimes, but while it's quiet, it like fills a lot of space. And as you said, it's ethereal, I think was the word I saw. That was actually the word that came to my mind when I was watching some of your things. And so I just want to really thank you for coming on, taking the time to share your music, share your thoughts about making music. Where can people find out more information about your music if they were interested in where you're playing or what you have coming out?
I mostly just use Instagram to announce shows, and then I have like a little blog that I will also post shows on, and it's just a blog spot. It's Louisa Stancioff.blogspot.com. And other than that, yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from more music, and hopefully as things progress for you, maybe you'll come back on and update us how things are going.
Yeah, thanks for having me.